Amanda Wilson stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, applying mascara with the precision of someone who had perfected the routine over 30 years of life. Tomorrow was her 30th birthday, and for the first time in weeks, she felt genuinely excited about what lay ahead. Her family had been acting strange lately, the kind of strange that preceded something wonderful. It started 3 weeks ago when her mother, Eleanor, called on a Sunday afternoon with that particular pitch in her voice that meant she was bursting with a secret. "Amanda, sweetheart, we need to talk about your birthday," Eleanor had said, practically vibrating through the phone. "Something extraordinary is coming," Amanda had protested automatically. "Mom, please. Nothing too extravagant." Last year's surprise weekend at the local winery had been lovely but expensive, and she didn't want them stretching their budget. "Oh, don't you worry about anything. Just keep the whole weekend open." And the hints had continued relentlessly. Michael, her older brother, texted out of nowhere, "Got your birthday weekend free. Trust me, you'll want to. Something big in the works." When Amanda responded with question marks, he sent back a zipped mouth emoji. Then Natalie called while Amanda was grocery shopping. "Have you bought anything nice to wear yet?" she asked, skipping hello entirely. "For what?" "Your birthday celebration." "Duh. Mom says I'm not supposed to give details, but you'll want something special to wear. Something big is coming." "Mandy?" Only her family called her Mandy, and only when they were feeling particularly affectionate. Even Richard, her boyfriend of 2 years, had been acting suspiciously. Richard was many things kind, reliable, occasionally charming after his second beer, but secretive wasn't one of them. Yet whenever she tried to extract information about her birthday plans, he'd become intensely interested in whatever was on television or suddenly remember urgent emails. "Just trust the process," he'd say, with what he probably thought was a mysterious smile. "Your family wants this to be special." Amanda's imagination had run wild with possibilities. Maybe they'd rented a party boat on the lake. Perhaps they'd arranged for her favorite author to do a signing at the local bookstore. Her most extravagant theory involved a surprise trip to New York to see the Broadway show she'd been talking about for months. The Wilson family had always made celebrations into art forms. When Natalie turned 21, they'd surprised her with a weekend in wine country. For Michael's 25th, they'd all pitched in for skydiving lessons. When their mother turned 50, their father had secretly arranged for all her college friends to fly in for a reunion weekend. Amanda remembered her 16th birthday, when her father had arranged a scavenger hunt across town with clues leading to different meaningful locations from her childhood. Her 21st had featured a surprise party with friends from every stage of her life. For her 25th, they'd created a video montage with messages from relatives and friends who couldn't be there in person. These memories made her feel incredibly loved. Despite the rough year she'd been having professionally, she'd been passed over for a promotion at the marketing firm where she worked. And one of her major clients had taken their business elsewhere after a presentation that had gone sideways through no fault of her own. But her personal life felt solid, with Richard talking increasingly about their future together and her family's unwavering support system. She'd earned their devotion, she supposed. When her mother needed surgery 3 years ago, Amanda had deferred starting graduate school to stay home during the recovery period. Michael hadn't even visited, claiming his classes were too important to miss. When Michael found himself between jobs last year, Amanda had loaned him $8,000 without hesitation. The payments were supposed to be monthly, but they'd become sporadic, then stopped altogether 6 months ago. These sacrifices felt natural to Amanda. She was the reliable one, the family member who never caused trouble, who could always be counted on to understand when plans changed or promises were broken. It was a role she'd inhabited so completely that she barely questioned it anymore. The week before her birthday, Amanda became a detective in her own home. She checked Richard's browser history when he left his laptop open, finding nothing more suspicious than his usual rotation of sports websites and online shopping for guitar accessories. She eavesdropped shamelessly when her family members called him, catching only fragments of whispered conversations that seemed to end abruptly whenever she entered the room. She even checked their shared calendar for mysterious blocks of time. But Richard had become uncharacteristically diligent about keeping his schedule private. The anticipation was delicious and maddening in equal measure. During slow moments at work, she'd catch herself staring out the window, mentally cycling through possibilities. A surprise party seemed most likely, given the emphasis on dressing nicely and keeping the weekend free. But the scale of secrecy suggested something bigger, more elaborate. Amanda found herself thinking about previous family celebrations with newfound appreciation. The Wilsons were the type of family other people envied, the ones who remembered anniversaries and showed up for each other's achievements, who made ordinary moments feel special through sheer force of attention. She remembered her college graduation, when the whole family had driven 6 hours to attend the ceremony. Her father had worn a suit that was slightly too small and completely out of fashion, but he'd sat in the front row beaming with pride. Her mother had cried during the processional. Michael had driven straight from his own university, missing classes he couldn't afford to skip. Natalie, only 18 at the time, had made a sign with Amanda's name surrounded by glittery hearts. The memory filled her with warmth and anticipation. Whatever they were planning would be perfect, because it would be planned with love. The night before her birthday. Amanda lay in bed next to Richard, who had gone to sleep unusually early, claiming a headache. She suspected he needed to finalize last-minute preparations, and the thought made her smile into her pillow. She felt like a child on Christmas Eve, her mind spinning through wonderful possibilities. Whatever this something big turned out to be, she felt immensely grateful to have people in her life who would go to such lengths to make her feel special. Sleep finally came near midnight, filled with dreams of surprises and celebrations, of being surrounded by everyone she loved most. Amanda woke on her birthday to unusual silence. Normally, her phone would be buzzing with messages by 7:15 a.m., starting with her mother, who prided herself on being the first to call every year at exactly 7:06, the time Amanda was born. But when she checked her phone, there was nothing. No missed calls, no text messages, not even any social media notifications. The silence felt wrong, like a familiar song played in a different key. Richard had already left for work, which wasn't completely unusual for a Thursday, but she'd expected at least a birthday kiss or card before he departed. On his pillow lay a hastily scribbled note, "Early meeting, see you tonight. Happy birthday." No hearts, no X's and O's, just his initial. Amanda tried not to feel disappointed. Clearly, whatever they had planned was for later. She dressed with extra care, choosing a new blouse she'd been saving for a special occasion, applied makeup more meticulously than usual, and even curled her hair. Whatever this surprise was, she wanted to look good for the inevitable photos. At work, her colleague Marcus sang an off-key rendition of Happy Birthday and presented her with a grocery store cake. Her boss, Bradley, handed her a generic gift card with a pre-printed message. It was nice, but nothing extraordinary. Throughout the morning, she kept checking her phone, expecting instructions, or at least more birthday wishes from her family. The silence became increasingly uncomfortable. By lunchtime, anxiety had replaced her earlier excitement. She called her mother, but it went straight to voicemail. Her father's phone did the same. Michael's rang 4 times before going to voicemail, and Natalie's was apparently turned off completely. Amanda sent a group text, "So, is something happening for my birthday?" Or 20 minutes later, her mother responded, "Sorry, sweetie, busy day. Talk later." Her father added, "Happy birthday, princess. See you soon." Michael sent a birthday cake emoji, and Natalie wrote, "Happy birthday, sis, big surprise coming later." These vague responses only heightened her confusion. What did later mean? She considered asking directly, but didn't want to seem ungrateful or impatient. By 3 o'clock, she couldn't focus on work anymore. She told her supervisor she wasn't feeling well and headed home early. Surely whatever they had planned was being set up at her house. A surprise party seemed increasingly likely, especially with everyone being so evasive. Amanda pulled into her driveway with butterflies in her stomach. The house looked ordinary from the outside. No extra cars parked on the street. No balloons tied to the mailbox. Still, they could all be hiding inside with the lights off, waiting to jump out and yell, "Surprise!" She took a deep breath, turned her key in the lock, and pushed the door open. "Hello!" she called into the darkness. No response. No sudden flood of lights. No chorus of voices yelling surprise. Just the familiar silence of an empty house. Amanda flipped on the lights and stood in her entryway, completely confused. The house was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Nothing special or different anywhere. No decorations, no presents, no people waiting to celebrate with her. Bewildered, she walked through each room, finding nothing out of the ordinary until she reached the dining room. There, in the center of the table, was a photograph she hadn't seen before. She picked it up with trembling hands. It was a selfie of her entire family at an airport: Mom, Dad, Michael, and Natalie, all wearing sunglasses and summer clothes, grinning widely with luggage visible behind them. Beside the photo lay a handwritten note in her mother's distinctive cursive, "Amanda, surprise. We're off to Hawaii for Great Aunt Florence's emergency family reunion. She insisted on seeing everyone right away, and the only dates that worked were this week. We're so sorry to miss your birthday. Sweetie, we'll celebrate properly when we get back in 2 weeks. There's a little something for you in the fridge. Love you lots. Mom, Dad, Mike and Nat." XOXO. Amanda stood frozen, reading and rereading the note. Great Aunt Florence's emergency family reunion in Hawaii during her birthday week, and they'd all gone without even telling her until she found this note. With shaking hands, she pulled out her phone and opened Instagram. The first post in Amanda's feed was from Natalie, posted 3 hours earlier. It showed her family on a beach, cocktails in hand, with the caption, "Aloha Hawaii. Family time is the best time, #blessed, #family vacation." Michael had posted too, "Nothing better than surprising Great Aunt Florence with a visit, #family reunion, #Hawaii." Amanda sank into a dining chair, her mind struggling to process what was happening. They hadn't just forgotten her birthday. They had actively chosen to be thousands of miles away for it. And from the photos, they were having a wonderful time without her. She opened the refrigerator with mechanical movements, finding a small grocery store cake with "Happy Birthday, Amanda" written in generic blue icing, and a gift bag containing a scented candle and a $50 gift card to Target, the kind of gifts you grabbed at the last minute when you'd put no thought into them. Her phone rang. Richard. "Happy birthday, babe," he said, his voice oddly strained. "Sorry I left without saying goodbye this morning. Work's been crazy today." "Did you know?" Amanda asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Know what?" "That my family went to Hawaii without me during my birthday week." A telling pause. "They mentioned something about a trip. I didn't know it was right now." His hesitation told her everything. He'd known. He'd known all along. "I thought we were celebrating tonight," she said. "Everyone kept saying something big was coming." "Yeah, about that." Richard cleared his throat. "I have to work late tonight. Big client emergency. Maybe we can do something this weekend instead." Amanda ended the call without saying goodbye, not trusting herself to speak without crying. She scrolled through more social media posts, each sunny photo and enthusiastic caption like a small knife to her chest. The something big that had been coming wasn't a celebration for her at all. It was a family vacation she hadn't been invited to join. Looking more closely at the posts, she noticed timestamps that made her stomach clench. Her family had been in Hawaii for 3 days already. They'd been there when they were sending her those cryptic, "something big is coming" messages. They'd been lying to her for days. In the background of one of her mother's photos, she could just make out a hotel confirmation email on the desk. Zooming in, she saw a booking date from 3 months ago. This trip hadn't been sudden at all. It had been planned for months. That night, Amanda sat alone in her living room, eating takeout Chinese food straight from the container and staring at the untouched grocery store cake. 30 years old, and she was spending her birthday completely alone, scrolling through social media pictures of her family having the time of their lives in Hawaii. With each smiling photo and enthusiastic caption, the confusion and disappointment crystallized into something harder and colder inside her chest. The morning after her birthday, Amanda woke with swollen eyes and a hollow feeling in her chest. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, her phone still clutched in her hand. The first thing she saw when she unlocked it was another batch of Hawaii photos. Mom posing with a flower lei, Dad attempting to surf, Michael and Natalie making peace signs in front of a luau banner. As Amanda studied the photos with growing unease, she spotted something that made her blood run cold. In the background of one shot was Great Aunt Florence, beaming in the middle of their family group. The caption read, "Thank you to my wonderful family for this amazing surprise visit. Best birthday gift ever, #blessed, #family, #Hawaii." So it wasn't even an emergency reunion. It was a surprise birthday trip for Great Aunt Florence, who had turned 75 2 days after Amanda's 30th birthday. They had chosen to celebrate Florence's birthday instead of hers. With shaking hands, Amanda called her cousin Rachel in Seattle. Rachel was her mother's sister's daughter, and they'd always been close despite the distance. "I was wondering why you weren't in any of the Hawaii photos," Rachel said when Amanda brought up the trip. "Because I wasn't invited," Amanda replied. "They went during my birthday week and didn't tell me until I came home to an empty house." There was a long pause. "Wow, that's really messed up. Amanda, I'm trying to understand how this happened. Has Aunt Judith said anything about why I wasn't included?" Rachel hesitated. "This is awkward, but from what Mom said, your parents didn't want to worry you because your mom's been having some health issues. Nothing life-threatening," she added quickly, "but she's been having these dizzy spells, and they didn't want to ruin your birthday with medical concerns." This was the first Amanda had heard about any health issues. "What kind of dizzy spells? Has she seen a doctor?" "She's had some tests. I don't know the details, but apparently that's part of why they wanted to do this trip now, while she's still feeling up to traveling." Amanda felt her anger deflate slightly, replaced by concern. Why hadn't her mother told her about health problems? "There's more," Rachel continued reluctantly. "Michael lost his job about 3 months ago. He's been putting on a brave face on social media, but he's actually been struggling. And Natalie and Mark have been in marriage counseling. They nearly separated last month." Each revelation hit Amanda like a physical blow. Her family was falling apart, and no one had told her anything. "Why am I just hearing about this now?" Amanda asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Amanda, you're the strong one, the one who has everything together. They probably didn't want to burden you with their problems. But they're fine burdening me with being excluded from a family vacation, with being alone on my birthday." Rachel sighed. "I'm not defending them. What they did was wrong. I'm just trying to help you understand. Your family has this image of you as someone who doesn't need support, who's always okay. It's not fair, but it's how they see you." After they hung up, Amanda sat in stunned silence. Her mother was sick. Her brother was unemployed. Her sister's marriage was in crisis. And no one had told her because they saw her as the strong one. She pulled up her email and found an Amazon order confirmation that had been forwarded from her mother's account by mistake. It showed her birthday gifts. The scented candle and gift card had been ordered through Amazon's automatic birthday reminder feature with standard shipping. They hadn't even personally selected her gifts. Amanda spent the rest of the day mentally cataloging moments from her childhood and adult life, seeing them now through a different lens. The patterns that emerged were depressingly clear. She was 11 when her piano recital was scheduled the same evening as Michael's championship baseball game. Her parents had split up, Mom coming to her recital for the first half before leaving to catch the end of Michael's game. Dad hadn't come at all. She remembered the hollow feeling of playing her solo piece to a half-empty auditorium, watching her mother slip out the back door just as she reached the difficult passage she'd practiced for weeks. When she made honor roll in high school, the achievement was overshadowed by Natalie breaking her arm the same day. Her college graduation had been rushed because Michael had a job interview the next morning in another state. Her first art exhibition opening had been sparsely attended because it conflicted with a distant cousin's wedding shower. She'd always been the one whose achievements and milestones could be postponed, rescheduled, or overlooked entirely. She was the reliable one, the understanding one, the one who never made a fuss. That evening, she called her friend Jessica, the only person who'd actually remembered her birthday without a social media reminder. "I feel like I'm going crazy," Amanda told her after explaining the situation. "Am I overreacting? Should I just be understanding about this like always?" "Amanda?" Jessica's voice was gentle but firm. "You're allowed to be hurt. This was your 30th birthday, and they ditched you for a beach vacation. That's not okay." "But they're my family. They love me." Love should include consideration and respect. They didn't give you either in this situation. They talked for over an hour, with Jessica validating feelings Amanda had been trying to suppress. By the time they hung up, Amanda felt marginally better, but the hurt had settled deep in her bones. The next day, she made an appointment with Dr. Patricia Morrison, a therapist she'd seen briefly after her college boyfriend broke up with her via text message. Patricia had helped her recognize some unhealthy patterns in her romantic relationships, and Amanda suspected those same patterns might extend to her family. "What I'm hearing," Dr. Patricia said after Amanda explained the situation, "is that your family has cast you in a role that no longer fits. If it ever did, they see you as the strong, independent daughter who doesn't need support, which conveniently allows them to focus on other family members' more visible needs." "Exactly. But why? But have you ever explicitly asked for support? Have you told them when you're struggling or when you need them to show up for you?" Amanda thought about this. "I guess I've always tried to handle things on my own. I didn't want to add to their stress. And that's created a dynamic where they assume you're always fine unless you say otherwise. Most people aren't mind readers. Amanda, they take their cues from what we tell them and how we behave." By the end of the session, Amanda had a clear understanding of her role in enabling these family patterns. She hadn't created the problem, but she had participated in it by never clearly communicating her needs or setting appropriate boundaries. That night, Richard came over with takeout from her favorite restaurant. For the first time, Amanda admitted how often she felt overlooked, not just by her family, but sometimes by him as well. "I don't want to be the afterthought in my own life anymore," she told him. "I need people who make me a priority, at least some of the time." "I want to be that person," he said, taking her hand. "I'm sorry I haven't been better at it so far." 3 days after her birthday, something shifted inside Amanda. She woke up with a different energy. The hurt was still there, but it had crystallized into something sharper, more defined. She was angry genuinely, thoroughly angry, and for the first time in her life, she was ready to do something about it. Amanda spent the morning strategizing with Dr. Patricia, developing a plan for expressing her feelings without burning bridges she might want to rebuild later. "The key," Dr. Patricia advised, "is to use I statements. I felt hurt when, rather than you hurt me when. It keeps the focus on your experience rather than their actions, which reduces defensiveness. Amanda practiced these conversations out loud, sometimes with Richard, sometimes alone in front of her bathroom mirror. She needed to be clear and firm without letting emotion derail the message. When her mother texted that they had landed and would be home by evening, Amanda took a deep breath and replied, "We need to have a family meeting tomorrow, my place, 2 p.m. It's important." Her mother's response was immediate. "Is everything okay, sweetie?" "No," Amanda wrote back, "but it will be after we talk." That night, she barely slept, running through possible scenarios and responses. She'd written down key points she wanted to cover, not because she might forget them, but because seeing them on paper made them feel more real, more legitimate. She wasn't asking for much, she told herself, just basic consideration, just to be included in her own family. Amanda's family arrived the next afternoon, laden with Hawaiian souvenirs, colorful shopping bags bursting with lees, macadamia nuts, and souvenir T-shirts. She accepted them with polite thanks, but didn't open any, placing them on the coffee table like evidence. "Can I get anyone coffee or tea before we start?" she asked, her voice calmer than she felt. They exchanged nervous glances as they settled onto her couch. Her mother looked tan but tired, the lines around her eyes more pronounced. Her father kept clearing his throat, a nervous habit from childhood. Michael and Natalie sat close together, united in apparent apprehension. "What's this about, Mandy?" her father finally asked. "Your mother's been worried sick since your text." Amanda sat in the armchair across from them, hands folded in her lap to stop them from shaking. "I want to talk about what happened with my birthday, and more importantly, about our family dynamics that made it possible. Oh, sweetheart, we feel just terrible about missing your birthday." Her mother interrupted. "We have another celebration planned for next weekend to make up for it." "Mom, please let me finish," Amanda said firmly. "This isn't about the celebration itself. It's about the fact that my entire family chose to be in another state during my 30th birthday without telling me until the day of. It's about the weeks of hints about something big that was never coming. It's about finding out from a note and social media posts that you were all together celebrating without me." "It wasn't like that," Michael protested. "Great Aunt Florence specifically requested those dates. We didn't have a choice." "You had a choice to be honest with me," Amanda replied evenly. "You chose to let me believe you were planning something special for my birthday when you knew you wouldn't even be here." "We were going to tell you," Natalie said weakly. "We just couldn't figure out how without ruining the surprise for Florence." "So you prioritized her surprise over my feelings." The room fell silent. Amanda pressed on, outlining specific examples of being overlooked, keeping her voice steady and factual. No one interrupted her this time. "The worst part," she continued, "is that I recently learned about Mom's health issues, Michael's job loss, and Natalie's marriage problems, all from Cousin Rachel, not from any of you. You excluded me from your struggles, just like you excluded me from your vacation." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't want to worry you. Amanda, you have enough on your plate with your job. And that wasn't your decision to make. Mom," Amanda said gently, "I'm an adult. I get to decide what I can handle by keeping these things from me. You denied me the chance to support you, which is all I've ever wanted to do." Her mother broke down then, years of stress and fear pouring out in heaving sobs. "I'm sorry," she gasped between tears. "I've been so scared about these tests, and I didn't know how to tell you. You've always been my rock. Amanda, I didn't want you to see me falling apart. Mom, you're allowed to fall apart sometimes. We all are, but we need to fall apart together, not hide from each other when things get tough." This opened the floodgates. Michael admitted he'd been too ashamed to tell her about losing his job after she'd helped him financially in the past. Natalie confessed her marriage had been struggling for over a year, but she hadn't wanted to disappoint Amanda by admitting she was failing at something. "I feel like I have to live up to your standards," Natalie said. "You always seem to have everything figured out." "I don't," Amanda assured her. "Not even close. But I've gotten good at pretending because I thought that's what everyone needed from me." For the first time in perhaps their entire adult lives, they were having an honest conversation about their feelings and fears. It was messy and uncomfortable and occasionally tearful, but it felt like breathing clean air after years in a smoky room. "I need things to change," Amanda told them as the conversation wound down. "I need us to communicate openly, even when it's difficult. I need my feelings to be considered, not as an afterthought, but as a priority sometimes. And I need you all to stop seeing me as the invulnerable one who doesn't need support." Her father spoke up for the first time in an hour. "Family counseling," he said quietly. "We should do family counseling sessions. All of us." Her mother nodded through her tears. "I want to be honest about my medical situation going forward. No more protecting you from difficult information." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "I guess I could try to be more open about my problems, but this is all pretty touchy-feely for me." "That's exactly why we need counseling," Amanda said. Then Michael's expression hardened. "You know what? This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic about a birthday. It's one day. Amanda, you're acting like we committed some unforgivable sin." The room went dead silent. Amanda felt her carefully maintained composure crack. "It's not about the birthday." "Hashem," she exploded, her voice rising for the first time. "It's about being invisible in my own family. It's about being the only one who ever considers other people's feelings. It's about 30 years of being the reliable daughter who never needs anything while everyone else gets to have problems and needs and support." Michael stood up, his face flushed with anger. "Oh, so now you're the victim. You think you're the only one who's ever sacrificed anything. You think you're the only one who's been overlooked. I think I'm tired of being taken for granted by people who are supposed to love me. You want to know the truth." Michael's voice was getting louder. "You do judge us. Amanda, you act like you're so perfect, so together, and then you get upset when we don't live up to your standards. Maybe we don't tell you things because we're tired of your disappointed looks when we screw up." Natalie tried to intervene. "Michael, that's not fair." "No, let him finish," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face now. "I want to hear this. You loan me money and then act like I'm some charity case. You help Natalie study and then get frustrated when she doesn't get perfect grades. You take care of Mom and then get resentful when we don't thank you enough. Face it, Amanda, you like being the martyr. It makes you feel superior." The words hit Amanda like physical blows. Part of her wondered if there was truth in them, if she had been unconsciously judging her family while playing the role of the suffering saint. But then she looked at her parents, who were staring at Michael in shock, and at Natalie, who had tears in her eyes. "Even if that's true," Amanda said quietly, "it doesn't excuse lying to me about a family vacation during my birthday week. It doesn't excuse making me feel invisible and unimportant. And it doesn't excuse you storming out instead of trying to work through this like adults." Michael grabbed his jacket. "I'm done with this family therapy session. Call me when everyone stops being so sensitive." He slammed the door on his way out, leaving the rest of them sitting in stunned silence. "I'm sorry," Natalie whispered. "He's been under so much stress with the job situation, but that's no excuse for what he just said." Amanda wiped her eyes, feeling strangely calm despite the emotional explosion. "He might not be wrong about everything. Maybe I have been judgmental, but that doesn't mean my feelings about this situation aren't valid." Her father cleared his throat. Michael has always had trouble admitting when he's wrong." But the rest of us want to do better. Amanda, we want to fix this." Her mother nodded emphatically. "Family counseling? Starting next week? And I'm going to tell you everything about my medical tests, even the scary parts." As they prepared to leave, Natalie hung back. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "standing up to us like this, it's the bravest thing I've ever seen you do, and it's given me ideas about some conversations I need to have with Mark." 3 months later, Amanda woke up on a Saturday morning to her phone buzzing with a text from her mother. Test results came back. Normal doctors think the dizzy spells were just stress-related. "Calling you first, this time, like I promised." Amanda smiled as she typed back, "Best news I've heard all week. Let's celebrate." The changes in her family dynamic had been slow and uneven. Nothing like the dramatic transformation she might have hoped for. Michael still kept his distance, sending obligatory texts on holidays but declining invitations to family gatherings. He'd found a new job but hadn't told anyone in the family directly. Amanda had learned about it through a mutual friend. Some old patterns resurfaced during stressful times. Her mother still occasionally tried to protect her from difficult information, catching herself mid-sentence and then laughing ruefully. "There I go again," she'd say, and then tell Amanda whatever she'd been about to withhold. Her father had surprised everyone by embracing family counseling with unexpected enthusiasm. 40 years of marriage, he'd told the therapist, and I'm just now learning how to have a real conversation with my wife. Natalie had asked for Amanda's help planning a vow renewal ceremony with Mark. But this time, she'd approached it as a collaboration rather than presenting Amanda with a list of tasks. "I actually want your input," she'd said, "not just your labor." Richard, inspired by Amanda's confrontation with her family, had addressed some long-standing issues with his own parents. Their relationship had grown stronger as they both practiced the kind of honest communication that didn't come naturally to either of them. At work, Amanda had found herself speaking up in meetings, advocating for her ideas with new confidence. When Bradley offered her the lead position on a major new account, she'd negotiated for additional compensation rather than just accepting what was offered. "You seem different," her supervisor Catherine had remarked. "More confident." She was right. The confidence that had begun with standing up to her family had spilled over into other areas of her life. Amanda had stopped accepting less than she deserved, both personally and professionally, and people had responded by offering more. But perhaps the most significant change was in how Amanda saw herself. She was no longer the family member who absorbed everyone else's emotions and needs while denying her own. She'd learned to set boundaries without guilt and to express her needs without apology. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in late spring, Amanda's family gathered at her parents' house for what they were calling her rebirth celebration. No secrets, no surprises, just an honest acknowledgement of past mistakes and a commitment to doing better. The cake was homemade by her mother, chocolate raspberry as always. The presents were thoughtful rather than expensive. Most importantly, everyone who said they would be there actually showed up. Everyone except Michael. "He said he had a work conference," her father explained with obvious disappointment. "But the conference isn't until next week." Amanda had stopped feeling surprised by her brother's absence. Some people weren't ready to change, and she'd made peace with that reality. She couldn't control Michael's choices, only her own responses to them. "You know what Natalie told me yesterday?" Amanda asked Richard as they sat on her parents' back porch, watching her sister and father attempt to fix a broken bird feeder. "What's that?" "She said that watching me stand up to the family was the best thing that could have happened to her marriage. Apparently, seeing me set boundaries gave her permission to do the same with Mark." Richard squeezed her hand. "You've always been strong, Amanda. The difference is now you're using that strength for yourself as well as for others." Amanda leaned against his shoulder, feeling a contentment she hadn't experienced in years. The birthday that had started with an empty house and crushing disappointment had somehow given her a fuller, more authentic relationship with the people she loved most. It wasn't the gift she had expected, but it might have been the one she needed most. As the afternoon wound down and her family prepared to leave, her mother pulled her aside. "I know we can't undo what happened with your 30th birthday," Eleanor said. "But I want you to know that it taught me something important about taking you for granted. I won't make that mistake again." Amanda hugged her mother tightly. "I know, Mom. We're all learning." As she watched her family drive away, Amanda reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The birthday that wasn't had forced her to confront family dynamics that had been slowly suffocating her for years. She had learned that love sometimes requires confrontation, that healthy relationships depend not just on what we give, but on what we're willing to demand. The woman who had once sat alone in an empty house, devastated by her family's absence, no longer existed. In her place stood someone who understood her own worth, someone who had found her voice and wasn't afraid to use it. Richard appeared beside her on the porch, sliding his arm around her waist. "Good day." "Yes," Amanda said, and meant it. "A very good day." She thought about Michael, probably sitting in his apartment, too proud or too scared to admit he missed these family gatherings. She thought about all the birthdays and celebrations ahead, some of which he might attend and others he might not. And for the first time, she realized that was okay. She couldn't make people love her the way she wanted to be loved, but she could refuse to accept less than she deserved from those who chose to stay. The sun was setting over her parents' neighborhood, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Amanda watched it with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She was no longer the supporting character in her own life story. She was the protagonist, and she was just getting started.